Thanks for supporting us on Patreon. Welcome to our monthly critique.
What happened?
We weren't recording.
What part was what
None
part
of
of
it.
it?
thing.
What?
No,
This
I
whole
thought-
time we weren't recording.
no.
Are you sure?
Yeah. She just texted me and said, do you think we're recording? Let me stop. Or just fuck it. Just start over, I guess.
wait. Nothing got recorded?
No.
No, because I didn't get the alerts, and I was looking for the recording button, and because that's why I was looking around. I'm like, I don't see where it's telling me that we're recording, and hence the reason I texted her. Are you
All right. Is it recording now?
Yeah, it's recording now. I'm sorry.
Okay, yeah, we just talked for a whole fucking hour.
I don't think it was that long, but it was a while.
It was a while. It wasn't
was
recording.
It was a lot of important stuff too, and that really sucked.
Right, so we're gonna just take two.
Take two. I'm really
All right.
sorry.
All right, so we start the documentary, and what was it called, Dana?
It's
Pray
the
Away.
documentary is called Pray Away, and it's
Pray
on
Away.
Netflix. Yeah.
Right, and we talked about how it wasn't what we were expecting it to be. It was
Right.
from the perspective of Dana was thinking that it was going to be from the perspective of somebody who had been through conversion therapy, and
Right.
it was actually the people who were
Who
doing the
started
conversion-
Exodus?
yes,
Right.
right, who were gay themselves and were doing this. I thought that these kind of conversion therapies were started by straight people wanting to change gay people, but no, this was gay people harming other gay people.
Right. Which was,
And-
you're right, that was news to me because I definitely thought it was like a
Yeah.
church thing, and
Mhm.
and of course we just said this when we weren't recording, but like, I sort of understand where it came from in that, like, well, we'll get to it as you just,
Okay.
I'm gonna allow Nydia to talk and we'll start over.
Okay, so we open up in a car scene, and it's
Go ahead, Cindy.
Well, I was gonna say it starts off with the conversion therapy definition and how it's defined and how it's no longer reputable under mental health doctors and other professionals.
Right.
So, and then it opens up to that driving scene that you were just about to mention. I'm sorry.
okay. So we have a big gay bear. He steps out at a strip mall, shopping center, or something like maybe like a Christmas tree shops or something, and he asks people if they need prayer.
Yeah, he's just
Interesting.
like rogue asking people, would you like me to pray for you? And we're
You
like,
need prayer. You need prayer.
no, thank
Like,
you, friend. We definitely don't want that.
Yeah. So he gets some takers, and he explains to these takers that he used to be trans, and they cut to the picture, and he was actually a really pretty trans woman.
Really pretty trans woman.
Yes.
And I'm like, what the fuck? Can I learn to do makeup or something? Because
I
like,
mean,
Stunning.
she was gorgeous. She was gorgeous.
right. And he says that, he was, during that time, he was selling his body for sex and abusing drugs and alcohol. And we talked about how this is all outside of a shopping center.
Yeah,
People
it's
just
like
coming out.
on the
It's
side
a
of the
lot.
road on a rainy day.
Right. It's a lot. It's heavy. It's like, I want to just get to my car with my things,
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right.
And he mentioned how he was in bondage and was set free by Christ, and
Right.
the Holy Spirit can transform you.
Right. And so the thing that I would like to mention here about, I feel like I'm repeating myself to you guys again, but is that, like, when trans people who are not accepted by their family or their community, their lives can be very difficult. Like he was saying that he, sold his body for sex, or he was doing drugs, or there's like, housing situations that are difficult. So like, there is something there that we should probably be discussing or exploring a little more as to why it might be easier not to transition, even though it's something that they want to do, or to live, their full, complete selves. but it
Right.
might not always work for them. So, but for him to be like, the Lord saved me and made me not trans anymore, like sort of felt like for me, like a cop out. Like, no,
Right.
this wasn't an easy life for you, but like, let's be real, there's something more there to it than, and I don't know what it is for him specifically, but it felt like he was sort of hiding behind this, like, the Lord saved me and I'm no longer trans, and I'm gonna like put that all over a bunch of other people, and it's kind of fucked up.
Yeah, it's a
Mhm.
lot. It's a lot.
It's a lot.
So and to me, I side noted, I said it looks like he traded one addiction for another, because
Right.
he is fucking eating it up, eating Christ.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's his thing. That's his
Yeah.
his new persona, right? And I wrote addicted to God, maybe. So then we cut to the interview part, and they kind of like give you a preview of the people that are to come, the people that started this whole movement of conversion therapy.
Right.
And get a glimpse of who they are. They don't spend too much time on it, but you get a glimpse of who they are, and they all look like people who've carried a weight, who are carrying a weight on their shoulders. And I was like, my heart hurts for these people. But of
Yeah.
course, I started watching, so I didn't know what hand they had to play in this. All right.
Right. Yeah.
We find out that those are the founders of this conversion therapy. Are you guys still there?
You're frozen.
We are, but you're totally frozen at a
Guys
funny spot.
froze.
Okay,
You were like, we could hear you. I could hear you still.
Okay. All right, so cut to Reno, Nevada. We're gonna cut to Reno, Nevada, and we meet Yvette Cantu Schneider, and she's in the kitchen baking with these two girls, and I was like, okay, this is the straight lady that is gonna throw the wrench in the works, right? This
Yeah.
is the Karen. Sorry, Karens. This
Yeah.
is the, and they cut to the past when she's being interviewed about being a recovering lesbian.
Right.
And I was like, okay, they even questioned her. She called herself up when she was recovering, she was a practicing lesbian. And they were like, what were you practicing? I'm sure Dana and Cindy are always practicing their lesbianism.
Yeah.
Didn't the girl say something like, you're trying to get really good at it? And I'm like,
Gotta practice.
you got practice makes perfect.
Gotta practice.
So she they cut to a scene where she's like got this group of people, and she's providing testimony that the church and God healed her of her lesbianism, and that only God, that he's the only one that could touch those places, those deep
Those
places
deep
inside her.
places in her. Deep within her. I'm like, girl, okay.
So she says that she came into the church when she was 27, and she talks about maybe her reasoning for going to the church was because at the time she was a practicing lesbian, and 17 of her friends died of AIDS.
Right.
And I was like, 17 friends of dying of AIDS, it implies that you had 34 friends that didn't have AIDS, and 17 of those friends died, which is not funny, but that's a lot of gay friends.
Right. She had to be deep in the gay community.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like I was saying, like I've been out for 20 years almost, and I don't know 17 queer people. Like, so she had to really be deep in, the queer community.
Right. Yeah.
And I was saying to you earlier that like I sort of understand, I deeply like empathized with her and the other girl, which I know we'll talk about later, but I deeply like understood where she was coming from in that being gay deserved a punishment. She was saying like, her friends died, and this is like how God punishes you, because you do a bad thing and God punishes you for that thing. And that's why, it was easy for her to be like, well, I'm not gay anymore, because clearly like this is like a cause and correlation situation, cause and effect situation here. And when you grow up in a church, or when you're, deeply impacted by God and religious trauma, like that made perfect sense to me. Like, I don't think that it's right. I don't agree with it now, but like, I totally understood why she acted the way she acted, why she felt the way she felt, because you watch your friends die and you're like, well, we did this to ourselves. We, you know, but to
Right.
like struggle that way is really, really tough, you know?
Right. Right.
I mean, it really must have been so traumatic seeing all those friends pass away from
Right.
something that is so considered so wrong and such a sin,
Right.
that the trauma of losing those friends made you decide
Probably
that
made her run to the church.
right, like and she even said it took her 3 years to overcome being a lesbian.
Right.
I found that interesting.
Yeah.
Well, then you have ass face Jerry Falwell, who blames. They cut to that clip where he like blames AIDS on the gays.
Yeah, Jerry Falwell's trash. We all think Jerry Falwell's total and utter trash. He's a piece of shit.
Yeah. And I said before, Jerry plus evangelist, TV evangelist equals asshole. And I stick to that.
Yeah, he's trash.
So then we cut to Michael Bussey, and he was a gay man who was in the church, and he wanted to change. He had been indoctrinated to believe that gay meant bad, and so he wanted to change. And he noticed that in his church there were a lot of support groups for various, you know, things, alcoholism, whatever there was a support group for, but there wasn't any support group for gay thoughts, you know, for suppressing these gay thoughts or controlling them or whatever it is that the conversion therapy was doing. So what he did was he started a group in his own church, and then other churches started groups, and then these churches wanted to converge and have a powwow and say what works for you, testimony, and, you know, provide testimony and stuff like that. And that turned into a conference that started in Anaheim in 1976, and they called it Exodus. And there were a lot of gay Christians that were struggling with their sexuality, and they were looking to Exodus to change them. And the thing is that I was shocked and surprised, because I thought conversion therapy was mostly something that was thrust upon you, that, you know, your family's like, you're going to leave my house unless you get conversion therapy,
Right.
you know, that. But a lot of them a lot of it was self-sought.
Yeah, I think for probably the mass majority of youth and, you know, people outside of who's running this, that's probably true. But for these people who started it, and maybe they didn't think that it would be, you know, turn into what it was, you know, but I was very shocked. I thought that this was like some weird, you know, priest that like started this or something, you know, to attack gay people. But yeah, it does sort of smack as reality for me, because I do see that, like, you know, guilt-ridden, churchy behavior. It is really like we do like want to punish ourselves and fix our sins and do all the things that like we were taught, like, this is bad, this is wrong, this is gross, this is, you know, so it does make sense that they are trying to hurt themselves and smash it out in a bunch of other people, because, you know, that is what we're taught to do, you know, in religion.
Right. So then we cut to a young Diane Sawyer, and she says to the screen, it was once unthinkable. What was once unthinkable now is like they're coming to you at the breakfast table and coming out. And I was just like, are you serious? And then Cindy says that it's from 1998.
Shocking.
98. That's my notes.
That's crazy. I thought like that was like 1960s talk.
Yeah, definitely the 80s. You know, you could definitely see that being like in a Reagan era newscast, but 98, almost 2000. Like,
I
damn.
know. Like, dude,
It's
that
just
is not
too
the
close
worst
to
thing.
now.
Right,
It's
that
just
is
too
not the
close
worst
to
thing.
now.
Right. Yep. So that dude is the so she's got that dude, what's his name?
John Polk.
John Polk. She's interviewing him. That dude was just like the gayest person that has ever gayed.
Yeah.
Like, honestly. You couldn't wash that gay away.
No, definitely not.
No. So, and then like the part where he says that he's fearless, I was like,
And he was fearless, more like fierce.
right,
But
yep.
All of them, all of the people who were the spokespeople for Exodus or whatever, they all smacked of queerness. Like, all
Yes.
of them were like
Yes.
very, very queer, very gay, very flamboyant. Like, no, even when they were like trying to suppress it, you're like,
Right.
baby, no,
Yes,
honey.
just be you. Let your fucking feathers
Fine.
fly.
Let it fly, babe.
Right. So of course he marries a former lesbian.
Former lesbian.
Right. And they start this little former gay family. You know, they have
Right.
2 kids and my thought was like, okay, but the only time, like, how convenient is it for a gay man to marry a lesbian? She has absolutely no interest in his sex.
And vice versa.
Right. So they could just live this like sexless marriage for convenience, you know,
Right.
and have kids because, you know, because he
But,
maybe
like,
he turkey basted her or
To
something. I don't
what end? Like, what's the point?
know. To fit in the church,
Yeah.
you know. Plus, I'm sure that if he was running with Exodus, that was probably his income.
Yeah,
You know?
definitely. Definitely.
It definitely was his income.
Right. So I was thinking like they had probably like a male live-in nanny and a female live-in gardener or something, you know? Like wink wink, you know?
She's the handyman. She's like,
Right, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And then we have the Jerry Springer show. There's this clergyman wearing a lavender shirt, and he says that homosexuality can't be changed and that it is a gift from God, like heterosexuality is. And then someone freaking in the panel, I think it was John Polk,
Yeah.
that said he likens it to wife beating and pedophilia. And Jerry, mother beeping Jerry, jumps in. He says, child molestation is not comparable to homosexuality.
Yeah.
And
Jerry shut that shit right down.
Jerry for the win.
Jerry's woke ass Jerry fucking Springer.
Right. Because if Diane Sawyer was on the very next network talking about how, it's unthinkable, Jerry was like, no, it's not the same thing.
No, it's not. No, it's not.
Right.
Jerry,
That's right. Jerry is for the people.
always been for the people, Jerry.
That's right. And let's call it what it is. The guy bashing the homosexuals seemed more gay than the guy wearing the lavender shirt.
Right. Right. Right.
So then Michael Bussey, what is his name? Michael B comes back and he says that being gay is a psychological problem and that that needed to be fixed, right? And then Exodus becomes the largest conversion therapy organization, and basically their program focuses on healing you of your psychological damage, right?
Right.
So this black guy comes up and he's at the podium and he's giving testimony, much like a person would be in say Alcoholics Anonymous kind of thing, right?
Right.
So he talks about his being in the program for 262 days or something like that, and his ritual masturbation and his homosexual relationships. And I was just like, I felt so bad for him because you could tell the pain that he was in and the struggle, how he saw it as an addiction.
Right.
And it's kind of sad.
It's tragically sad. It's tragically sad. And it just, the whole thing really fucking sucks because it just like, you know, the fact of the matter is, like, they probably wouldn't be searching for this kind of like acceptance from the church or acceptance from whoever if like one person in their family would have showed them like kindness or compassion, you know, or like accepted them for who they were, you know, and it you know, for them to be like, oh, it's a psychological, you know, thing that because your family was traumatic or your dad relationship with your dad or whatever. And it's like, yeah, well, maybe if their dad was like, I love you no matter what, and you can be gay, I won't have to like go through this weird fucking conversion therapy or whatever.
Right. But here's the thing though, a lot of religious people who still love their children but can't come to terms with their homosexuality, blame it on trauma.
Right.
You know?
No, I get that. And they're wrong.
Right. But they tell other relatives, well, they're gay because they had trauma in their life. You know what I mean? And that's how they justify it.
Yeah.
You know?
So maybe you should show them more compassion.
Who? The parents or the
Yeah, like I'm saying, if you're like, well, they're only gay because they had trauma in their life. Like, okay, well, that's if we're gonna agree to that's true, which it's not, then maybe you should even still show them more compassion, you know, because they've had trauma.
No. I'm talking about parents who are still who are still part of the church and want to be accepting of their children, but can't make that my child was born gay kind of thing. They can't reconcile that. They chalk it up to, oh, they were, you know, maybe my daughter was raped, or maybe my son was, you know, molested, or, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying.
That's how they justify it. Other parents, they just write you off.
Yeah.
You know, but it's part of that religious trauma. You know, it's not necessarily psychological trauma.
I think what Dana was trying to say was that the parents should show more compassion to the person that's coming out saying, because if they believe it's trauma, then they should be more compassionate towards them. Is that what you were trying to say?
Yeah, like I'm saying, if you're, yeah, that's what I was trying to say. Like,
that's what Dana was trying to say.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I get it.
If your point is that they were, well, fine, they weren't born gay, they were traumatized. Like, okay, great, fine. Let's be nice to them because they were traumatized. So like, let's just, you know, anyway, it doesn't matter. Go ahead.
So anyway, Michael Bussey claims that the program that he claims in the program that if you're gay, you must have been traumatized as a child, either through sexual molestation or through toxic parenting.
Right.
And so if you resolve those issues, your true heterosexuality will come forth. It will bloom. It will blossom. It will be your flower.
It will come out.
It will emerge.
You will just be straight as an arrow.
Right. And the people that they had counseling had no formal education for counseling. They weren't certified counselors. They weren't sex therapists. They weren't anything of that nature. They were just religious people, right? Yep. So, and because of this, a lot of these people that attempted to do conversion therapy attempted suicide because they felt guilty that they couldn't change, that this wasn't working for them, you know?
Right. And this is what was so dark to have gay people running it. You know, like that's the part that's so dark in this whole thing is like, these are not straight people being like, it's fine, you'll be straight if you just accept the Lord. It's like gay people that know that this is not true and not working, and they're still doing it to get the money or to like get the status or to get the power or whatever it is that they're getting from this. And like watching children suffer and kill themselves or whatever, hurt themselves, burn themselves, cut themselves. And you're just like, just keep at it. You'll get there. You'll be straight one day.
They were lying to themselves. They were just lying to themselves, standing up there, pretending that they had changed.
Right.
When really what they were changing were behaviors and not their emotions.
Right.
You know?
Right.
So, all right. So where were we? So he says that it came to a point, now that we're talking about that, you know, behavior changing, it came to a point where he couldn't continue to pretend that he was changing, and he couldn't continue to pretend that he was helping those change, because they weren't. He still had those feelings of, you know, desire to be with a man, and it wasn't going away. you know, his behaviors were different. He wasn't, you know, seeking it.
Right.
He wasn't acting on them, but those feelings were still there, you know.
Right.
And so at this point I was just like in tears. I was just in tears because I was like, you can't change it any more than I can't change it.
Right.
Or, you know, a hetero person can't change it. What is hard to believe about that? You know what I mean? What is hard
Right.
to understand about that? And he says he couldn't continue to harm people. And so he left in 1979 and Exodus kept growing. But essentially it was his evil baby.
Yeah, it was his brainchild. And again, like, it felt like for him specifically, it felt like it started from a good place, a misguided place,
right?
But a good place, you know, like,
right? Because he says that in his time, it was seen as sinful and bad, and like
a
during
mental
that time.
defect. Yeah.
Right.
So where's the trauma really coming from?
From the
Right.
fucking church.
Right. So then we go to the engagement photo shoot. Cute couple, lesbian couple. I was like, bitch is doing androgyny right.
Yes, that's a past lesbian right there. Yes.
Yeah, I was like, I get it.
Androgynous bitch.
Yeah. I get it. I
Yes.
was like, I get it.
Okay.
It's a good look on her, you know?
Yes. That's what I've been trying to explain to you.
Yeah, but some people, I don't like the way some people.
Yeah. No, those two were really cute. They like nailed it.
Yeah. Not that I'm nobody. Like, who cares what I fucking think? Do your androgyny how you want to do it.
No, they were very cute. I thought they were so cute.
Yes, she had a Katie Lang kind of like vibe.
She really did. Yes.
Yeah. So anyway, 1993, they keep coming back, you know, to these different time periods. We cut to the girl, the one of the lesbians. They never name her like at that point. They name her later on. So the engaged lesbian, that's what we're gonna call her right now. She cuts back to 1993, and she explains how she grew up in a fundamentally religious household, and they cut to James Dobson. And he talks about, can you imagine a 5-year-old kindergartner sitting there listening to their teacher talk about adult perverse sexuality? And I'm like, dude, you've obviously never been in a classroom.
Yeah, you know, I actually, there's this guy I follow on TikTok. I think he's an art teacher, but he's definitely a teacher of some sort. And he's a gay guy. And he has like pictures of himself and his husband in his classroom. And I think he teaches young-ish kids, maybe like 4th, 5th, 6th grade, in that pocket, I guess, maybe, I'm not sure. And he says like he's had parents over the years be like, I don't think it's appropriate that you talk about your spouse. I don't think it's appropriate.
Come closer to the mic. I can't hear you.
You can't hear you.
He says that he's had parents be like, I think it's inappropriate that you talk about your spouse or your husband or your boyfriend or your gayness or your whatever. And he's like, he like always makes these points about like, what about pregnant teachers? Like, what about teachers that come in and they're pregnant? He's like, I've never discussed my sexual relationship with my husband, but like a pregnant woman like had to have sex to have a baby, you know, like 99% of the time that's how she got pregnant. And like, you're more likely to have a kid be like, how did that baby get in there, than for you to be like, where does this guy put his penis with his partner? You know what I mean? And like, he like really makes it be like, I'm not saying anything that like a straight female teacher wouldn't say about her husband and her kids, or, you know, and it's just like, no one's talking about this. Like, teachers aren't coming to school and being like, I bent my husband over the fucking table last night and fucked him at the kitchen. Like, nobody's saying that ever, anytime ever. So like, Jerry Falwell, sit the fuck down and shut the fuck up.
Right. And then that was James Dobson.
Whatever, James Dobson.
Then Jerry Falwell comes out and says that homosexuality is wrong all the time, period.
Yeah. Didn't Jerry Falwell like get caught fucking his secretary in his pool or something? Fuck out of here, Jerry Falwell.
Whatever. So both these white dudes they want you to step on their balls. They want you to shit on their chest, and they want you to use a dildo on their ass. I guarantee it.
Jerry Falwell specifically, like, has been caught in some serious sex scandals.
Yeah, and I'm sure they all do fucking crazy ass freaking nasty shit, and probably
Yes,
like little
bitch,
kids.
and get it, have at it, but like, leave us the fuck alone.
Exactly. Don't fucking poo something that you have some shit hiding in your closet.
That's right. Don't yuck my
Anyway.
yum.
Right. So back to the girl, engaged lesbian. She said that she always heard gay was bad. Gay equals bad.
Right.
And she came out to her mom when she was 16. And so the mom like panics and like, and she meets up with Ricky Chalet.
Yeah, Chalet. Yep.
Chalet. And at the Living Hope Church, the home of Exodus.
Right.
And he gives me fucking Flanders vibes.
Yeah, I think Exodus is like the tree and Living Hope is like a branch on the tree. I don't think.
Yeah. But it was probably like their branch of Exodus.
Yeah, like wherever she lived. Yeah, right.
So
yeah, he definitely has like hi diddly ho, like fucking. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So he goes through this like really like simplified but yet elaborate explanation of how people become gay and how along the line, this happens. So this is why you become gay. You become fixated on the parent that whatever. And he uses some terms, some psychological terms, I guess, like where, you have the Oedipus complex where, the son will fall in love with the mother. The Freudian shit, right? And then so he kind of uses that to kind of give credibility to what mumbo jumbo he's explaining away, right? And so she's 16, she doesn't know science, and she sees him as like, yeah, that makes perfect sense. That sounds right.
Absolutely, sure.
She's impressionable, she's 16, so she starts to see him as a mentor, and I was like, that feels weird.
Yeah, don't love it. I don't love it. Don't love it at all.
No, I mean, she starts talking about how like she would go and she would like tell him when she would have like a nasty thought about it.
He was like under his desk, like fucking fondling his fucking balls.
Like rubbing it like this, like his nub just over it. Like,
tell me who you were talking to. Tell me all about it.
Rubbing.
What she look like.
Now
what she smell like.
Now was he a gay or was he a straight? Just helping people.
They didn't say anything
they
about it.
They didn't say it about him.
Yeah. At the end, in the end credits, they say that he denied an interview.
Yes.
Part of it. So there's a lot of talk throughout the whole documentary. A lot of talk about them wanting to be good and wanting to be loved and wanting to be part of something and wanting to be accepted. And this group would make the best churchgoers, man. They want to be there. They weren't forced to be there. They want to be there and they want to be a part of it. And they keep getting rejected because of their sexual preference.
Right.
The church really needs to change that.
Yeah, well, that's what makes a zealot. I mean, that's how we get this, right?
Exactly. So cut to the church scene when they're giving testimony and another big gay bear asks our original gay bear from the opening scene to come to the pulpit.
Right.
And they give each other the most loving look.
Yes, the whole room is filled with gay people.
But those two were, me and Danny looked at each other and we were like, and Danny said to me, so you think they doing it? They doing it, right? They doing it, right? Yes. And if they weren't, they were definitely heavy into each other.
They locked eyes. They locked eyes like I've never locked eyes with a freaking man in my life.
Right.
So he starts to cry and they pray over him. And he talks about how Will and Grace and, the shows that he was watching on TV made him, essentially blames it on, that's why he's gay. And he talks about, he talks about public schools, like pushing the agenda and stuff like that.
He said something about, the LGBT people, like, they make it their whole identity. It's their whole identity. And I was like, What
Yeah.
are you doing? What are you doing
Mhm.
right now? What you are doing, your weird Facebook Freedom March thing that you're doing, it's very weird. And it is your whole fucking identity. You're so full of shit. Like, yeah, like being queer is definitely part of my identity in a way that like maybe it's not for straight people because they get to just like wake up and be straight, and they don't ever have to
Right.
like walk around and be like an outcast, but like also like being Hispanic is part of your identity, and like having children is part of your identity, and like whatever, like being a massage therapist is part of my identity. Like all of these things make me who I am. So like sit the fuck down, you weird man, you weird fellow. You're such a weirdo.
He's a cute gay bear that hasn't freaking embraced himself. I want him to embrace himself because he'd be fabulous.
He would.
Yes.
Did you see that fucking those cheekbones and that fucking hair? My
know.
God.
I know.
Get
So-
your shit together.
Back to Yvette from the beginning. They cut to her, and now it's 1994, and she spoke in front of a room full of women. And you know what? I was very shocked at the amount of times that they use the word articulate.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was like, why? Because a gay person advocating for other gay people wouldn't be articulate? Like,
You know what I think it is that like, and they sort of described it with her when they were like, oh, you have a Hispanic last name, like you'll like touch all these points, right? You're a woman, you're like, I wouldn't go as far as to say she was pretty, but like she wasn't like this butchy, like ogreish lesbian that like what they probably think lesbians look like, she like looked straight, so she like ticked all of these like little boxes in that you'll pass, like the straight world would accept her and swallow her as like palatable,
right. Let's go back
she
to
can,
that
like-
word articulate.
yeah, she can string a sentence together,
Right. Articulate is one of those words that I always look for when somebody is trying to use when a majority group is trying to use a minority group. You'll hear that word articulate a lot. If you have, say, a Black person speaking on behalf of Republicans, and they'll be like, oh, well, we use him. He's a very articulate person. And I'm like, why wouldn't he be articulate? Like, that's a given. It's because it's almost like a word that is kind of thrown around a lot when you're trying
what
to
you're
use
saying is
somebody as your pawn.
they sound white, they sound educated, they sound,
right.
they don't sound ghetto, they don't sound queer. She's not like, if you get a gay man, he's like walks in, he's like, oh my God, that's not going to be palatable for the Christian minority,
That's the word. That's the word, palatable.
Right.
If you're articulate, you're palatable
Right.
to my cause and my agenda that I'm
Right.
trying to push.
Right.
And so they use that word a lot.
Right. And that goes for like, that's very like par for the course with the Republican, that's why they use someone like her, she ticks so many of these boxes.
Right.
You're right. Like they get like one, articulate Black man, or one like, articulate, Hispanic woman, or whatever, a gay man that like doesn't come off flamboyant. Like that one, I can't even think of that one politician that was like a gay guy, and they were like, well, look at him, he's gay, he doesn't seem gay, he was in the army or whatever. And you're just like, so what? Like, what does that fucking matter? Like, what is this politics, right? Like,
Right.
the fuck?
Yeah.
That's
that
an
word is
interesting
like,
point. Yeah.
that's a cringy word to me.
Yeah.
Anyway, so she talks a lot about giving LGBT people special rights and how they basically needed to be stopped. Because they're like, we're not talking about equal rights. We're talking about special rights.
Not true.
And so she stands up in a room full of women and she tells them they need to be stopped. And because of that little like speech that she's so hard, was so hardcore, I was just like, you are a fucking traitor to your people.
Mm-hmm.
She was offered a job in Washington, D.C. at the Family Research Council. They are a political power.
Yeah.
Lots, I wrote all caps, lots of white straight men.
Right. Right. Even
Um,
she says that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And they say, listen, you tick all our boxes. You're young, you have a Hispanic last name, and you don't look gay. You know?
She had a
Um,
bop about her though.
she
Mhm.
did. She
She had a
did.
bop
She
about her.
uh-huh. Yeah, she did. I was
There were
like,
plenty of moments I said, she's such a lesbian.
She's
And
yeah,
very gay. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
She ran that way.
Yeah.
mhm,
She secretly wanted a pickup truck. So
Definitely.
so she becomes
definitely a Subaru.
yep, she becomes a policy analyst,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
And she says that that the one thing that they did to get funds and to get voters out there was to talk about gay rights, giving gays their rights, and that really got voters riled up. Those right-wing conservatives really got their feathers ruffled when you say gays are going to have rights. So
Yeah. And they're like, she really had an interesting point where she said they're not asking for equal rights, they're asking for special rights. And it's like, no, they're not. Like, stop twisting things to be something that it's not. That's fucked up.
right. So then she starts talking about like being anti gay adoption and all that stuff, and she talks about how a child needs a mother and a father, and I was just like that's just an aside. I was just like, look, like, no, not really. You don't need
Yeah,
a
what
mother.
about
and a father.
every single mom that like lives in this country that is
or single
straight?
dad,
Yeah, right,
or
exactly.
grandparent that's
Right.
raising or aunts that are raising, you know what I'm saying? Like, come on now. So
Go fuck
anyway, she
yourself.
says that she was once gay once upon a time and that people can leave it. In that one interview, and she was like, people can leave it. And there's a reason why she's able to hold on to that so strongly. And it's because you don't have to be gay, or you don't have to be a lesbian. You can like a little of everything.
Yeah, you can be bisexual. That's a thing. It's fine.
Right. But apparently that just never crossed her mind. Anyway, back to Engaged Girl, and she's talking about Living Hope and Ricky Chalette. And she talked about how like their little groups, they weren't allowed to go on social media because they would start having sex with each other. And I was like, absolutely. 100%. 100% yes, they would start having sex with each other.
Right.
And she talked about how much they condemned masturbation.
I never got that. I never get that. Like,
what, masturbation?
No, I know, I get that. What I'm saying is, like, I never get why like people are so against it. Like, why is the church so against it?
Because it feels good.
Right. That's my point. Like, what the fuck? What? Let people feel good. Like, if you're being like, you can't be queer, like the worst thing you could do is fuck someone of the same sex. And let them fucking beat their meat and be done with it. Flick a bean and call it a day. Like, what the fuck?
Exactly.
Why are we trying to control people and make them miserable?
Exactly. When my kids were little, and they're gonna kill me for saying this, but when my kids were little, I always used to be like, just don't do. That's something that you do in your in your private time. That's
do it all
time.
day. Yeah.
Yeah, that's bathroom time or closed door time. Like, just don't be deviant about it.
Do whatever you want. Just shut the fucking door. I don't care.
Right. It's your body to enjoy it. You know what I'm saying? Like, damn, I wouldn't get to sleep sometimes if I didn't. Anyway, so they made her freaking quit softball because that was gay.
Terrible.
Oh my god. And I was like, of course she's in softball. She's gay.
Right. Where else is she supposed to find other lesbians at?
I mean,
well, that was the problem. They didn't want her finding lesbians that easy.
Also, she found them all at gay conversion camp. What the fuck?
They were all there. Oh my god.
Every day.
Put a paperclip in that because I got shit to say about that.
Okay.
they cut to 2006, the Exodus conference, and Randy Thomas, and he talks about embracing masculinity and femininity. That was the whole training behind the conference, you know, about embracing those things. And they would teach makeup skills, and they would have all the little gay boys play football with each other.
Can you imagine that shit? That shit was probably, they were like, oh
So many boners, so many boners.
Mm.
at least they
Um,
weren't wrestling.
Right. And then she talked about how when the leaders went to bed, they got to be their little queer selves.
Yes.
I thought that was so cute. I was
Right.
like, I love it so much. And let me just say, that was the perfect place to pick people up, other
Yeah.
gays, because
Yeah.
there were so many good looking gay people there. Bro, that was the best gay meetup ever.
Well, plus
It might
they
as well have
all
been
like,
a grinder convention.
plus they all really were like in the same boat and really could like relate to each other.
Right.
It's good. It's cool
I
and
was just
good. Conversion therapy, great place to meet other queers. Great job, guys.
I mean,
out
dude,
of
like
10.
seriously, if you are trying to meet other gays and
Yeah,
you're trying to get gay married, just go to conversion therapy.
perfect place.
Go to the conference.
It's like the
Go to the
supermarket of gays.
Oh my god, and the best quality of the gays too. You know,
Highly
Um,
damaged, religious trauma. It's perfect.
ready to be loved, just
Yeah.
loved by someone. So this is so insensitive. I just want to say,
Terrible.
like,
No, it's fucking terrible.
it's terrible of us, and I apologize. I'm just not woke yet like that. So so they wanted to be married and be parents. Like these people wanted to have straight lives so that they could do what wasn't allowed to them, which was marriage and having kids.
Yeah, mostly
all
they
they
probably
wanted.
just wanted to be accepted by their families, you know?
For real, yeah, I'm sure for some people it was about that, but for mostly it was I want to settle down with someone that loves me, and I want to have a family.
Right.
And apparently I've been told that that can only work if I'm with the opposite sex, you
Right.
know?
Yeah.
And so we're back to Jerry Springer, and he says that John, what's his name? Polk,
Polk.
whatever. He says that he met his wife, they were friends first, and then, you know, a sexual attraction came from that. And I was like, there ain't no sex happening in that bed.
No, and also he said something along the lines of like, you just need to be attracted to one girl. Just
Right.
one.
You don't need to be sexually attracted to women.
Just one girl.
one.
Because that's how marriage works. Just the one. And you're like,
Mhm.
I don't know about that.
And it worked so well that they cut to his future, and he's cooking with a man and he's calling him babe. That's how well that works.
Yep.
All right. So he explains that he associated behavior to gayness, but that his feelings never changed. And this is John Polk. Polk?
Polk, yeah. Polk.
John Polk, who was so adamant about being anti-gay, you know, and about
Like the
conversion therapy.
spokesperson for all of
He
this.
was.
Yeah.
He was. And he says that he never changed. His feelings never changed. His attraction towards men never changed, even after being married and after having kids. And that he felt like he wasn't being honest about his gay temptation. And it gave me very much fuckboy vibes from Fox. What's his name? You know who I'm talking about. The one that was like he's a young kid and he's like very anti wet ass pussy.
Oh, you're talking
know who
about
I'm
Ben
talking about.
Shapiro?
Yes, he was like, I'm like, this is Ben Shapiro.
Ew,
Ben
he's so
Shapiro.
gross.
Yeah. And he just gave me that vibe.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
anyway, then they cut to the
Ben
Freedom
Shapiro.
March. Yeah, Ben Shapiro. The Freedom March.
Yeah.
Okay, Big Gay Bear started it because mainstream media won't allow him to post his anti-gay shit, right?
Yeah. No
he
one
gets
wants
a
to hear that
call.
shit.
Right, he gets a call from a concerned mom who has a 20-year-old son who's trans. And
This hurt my heart.
yeah, it did. It hurt my heart for the kid, for the 20-year-old.
Yeah.
And And the mom is just like,
And you know, it sort of hurt my heart for that mom too, because it's like he's validating her wrongness. And I'm like, she has an opportunity to maybe make things better with her kid at some point if she
Right.
fucking tries. And you know, he's like, oh, you wouldn't allow your kid to get run over by a truck, and you're like doing no. Like, who are you to fucking give that advice? Like,
Right.
at all? How dare you?
And
right,
here's part of my problem was she was having trouble with thinking about her son transitioning, but at the same time she wanted to love him and accept him, but
Right.
had fears for him. So
Right.
had she spoken to the right people, I feel that maybe she would have had a different outlook and a different outcome to what possibly is now.
Right. She needs to call PFLAG. That's who she needs to fucking call.
Right, because I feel like
Right.
she was on a cusp of wanting to understand her transitioning
Yeah, right.
daughter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not going to
And-
call him a girl. I'm not going to call him my daughter. Like, well, then you don't have a child.
Can't hear you.
She was saying, like, I'm not going to call him my daughter. I'm not going to call him a girl. And I'm like, well, then you don't have a child. You don't have, you have nothing. Like, you don't, you don't need to call her anything because you don't have anything.
right,
Right. And I put pronouns in all caps and dots
Right.
and exclamation because, you know, what the bear, as Nydia calls him, kept using the other
He, him
pronouns.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was like, what the fuck, you
Yeah.
asshole. This is the acceptance you lacked. And this is the acceptance
Right,
you wanted.
right.
And this
That's
is the
right.
acceptance that you have trauma from.
Right.
And now you are submitting another child to your shame and your pain, your
Right.
same pain. That's why you're hiding yourself and who you really are. And you're doing it to another parent, all because you are having problems with yourself and those that denied you. And you're adding trauma to another one.
Yeah, it's
Here,
really
that's
fucked up.
that's what was the most surprising thing to me in this documentary, that this was self-inflicted harm,
Right.
you know.
Right.
In some
So-
cases, yeah.
Right. So we cut to the engaged lesbian, and she's writing a book about experiences. And I'm sorry that I keep calling her Big Bear and engaged lesbian. They didn't give their names until like a certain, like later on. So at this point, I'm just writing engaged lesbian.
Well, her name, they did give her name. I think it was just in writing. If you were looking up at the screen, because I wrote it down early on.
What's her name?
Julie Rogers.
Yeah, Julie Rogers. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
didn't see it. I didn't see it on the screen until way
Yeah.
later. So she's talking about Ricky and about talking, you know, intense sex stuff with him. Ricky,
Right.
the counselor that
Shalette.
was counseling her,
Yeah.
Shalette, that was counseling her at the New Hope Church. And she says that it would be confessional, like she would confess to him, she would report her interactions with other lesbians,
Right.
and that gives me like an icky vibe, like a
Yeah,
very
it should. It's gross.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, remember, she was 16, telling
Right.
this grown man her sexual you know, whatever.
Her interests, her thoughts, her deep feelings.
Right.
Like, yeah.
And
Mhm.
she talks about her journal entries being, you know, God forgive me, and how bad she thought she was, what a bad person she thought she was.
Yep.
Which is so sad, you know.
Yep.
Especially
And-
since she recognizes that she was a good kid.
And that's where I wrote in parentheses, I related most to this section right here.
Yep.
Because of where I grew up and the situations I grew up in. And I remember being one of those people that would write that kind of stuff where I'm like, I was a fairly fucking good kid. And just having thoughts of kissing someone or anything like that was just bad. Kissing somebody that you weren't seriously involved in getting ready to marry was like, oh my God, you're doing a bad thing. So let alone, having thoughts about women. And so hearing her say that was a point where I was like, ooh, I know exactly where she was at. I know
Yeah.
exactly what she was feeling.
Yep.
Right. So then you have the Exodus conference of 2000, and they bring out the big guns because they don't want the whole conversion therapy to just be about religion. They want it to also have a little bit of science credibility, behind it. So they bring in psychologists, right? And the psychologists that they bring in had been doing this for 30 years, 30 plus years. Dr. Joseph Nicolosi. Nicolosi. Did I say
You
that?
could butcher his name. He was an asshole anyway.
Yes. All right. Dr. Joseph Nicolosi, and he had been treating men for unwanted sexual same-sex attraction for 30 years. And it was a pseudo psychology, of course. And Exodus did this because they were looking for some science credibility. People, most people wouldn't, they're not up on what the DSM-4 or whatever number it's up to now says. So they, you're a lay person, you don't know that this is pseudoscience.
How could you ever?
You hear the word doctor and you automatically assume they must know what they're talking about, and you take it at face value, right?
And it's a doctor being put in front of you by religious people that you trust. It's like a double whammy. It's really fucked up.
Exactly. So the video footage of the therapy session that he posted, I was like, HIPAA violations?
Probably not.
I wondered the same thing.
Probably not. I thought that too, but I bet you if they are videotaping it, they sign a waiver. I would care to wager. And that was very fucking sad.
Yeah. This was a married man, a very young man. And he's crying, and he describes himself as broken. And the psychotherapist, Dr. Nicolosi, says, how does it feel that I see you as broken and that I accept you as broken? And I was just like, this sounds so wrong.
Well, here's the thing. As I'm watching this therapy session, one of the things that I noticed is that he did a lot of guiding statements.
Yep.
So thought implementation to this person, that he was guided to his statements and his phrases and his thoughts that probably weren't his own as much as maybe they were there under the surface because of their set guilt from, what the church puts in you already. But this guy, I guess, he must be seeing something I'm not seeing, so he must be right. Let me say what he wants me to say.
Right.
Or he must be seeing it. He must be right. So let me rephrase what he just said, or amen, whatever the fucked up shit he just said about me.
Yeah.
And that's what I see is a lot of guiding statements, guiding thoughts, that the person did not say themselves. He did way more talking than the person actually did.
Right.
Right. And he used his therapy session as testimony that he had been acting out with men while he was married, and that now he hadn't, that those desires were gone in him, and if he can do it, it's possible for you, blah blah blah, right?
Right.
So we're back to Engaged Lesbian. She's at the church, and she sat through the service, and they're giving peace, and I was just like, ugh, I hate that part.
I hate that too.
That one thing positive about COVID.
Yeah, right.
Anyway, I don't know why I added that, but
no, I thought it too, because I was like, oh God, I don't miss having to do that.
Right, but it just goes to show you how much she still wants to be part of the church, and because she's gay, I guess now she's found a church that is accepting of her gayness, but of her homosexuality, but for a lot of people that that want to be part of the church, that are gay and that are shunned by the church, that's got to be a struggle. So Exodus conference 2011, we find out that Julie Rogers is her name. That's Engaged Lesbian. She's Julie Roberts and Rogers. Sorry. And she talks about how she was part of Exodus. She was part of one of those speakers that would come up on stage and tell her story.
Right.
And she was sexually assaulted by a man, and how she confessed that to in one of her sessions to Ricky Chalet, and he asked her to basically incorporate that into her testimony to almost like solidify the whole trauma of sexual trauma being linked to her homosexuality.
Right.
Where she knew that it wasn't
Right, because it happened way after
the fact. Exactly. And he was really pushing for her to do that, and she didn't feel comfortable with it. And so like I said, to kind of orchestrate the narrative of abuse turning women into to against men and to sexually attracted to
right. And then when she does do it, like when they show that clip of her doing, incorporating it into her testimony, it's sad, and you can tell she doesn't want to do. She almost like has a hard time saying the word rape, and it's like,
right.
Imagine forcing a rape victim to talk about their rape when they don't want to talk about it. It's like,
right.
It's fucked up. We don't do that shit.
And intertwining it with a narrative of something else. You know what I'm saying? Like,
right, yeah.
So it kind of convolutes it in your mind as one thing when actually it's two separate things, and it's probably
totally different things.
More damage.
Yeah.
It probably caused a lot more trauma, because if you start to think something or you speak it, you start to believe it a little bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So anyway, cut to the Freedom March gathering in Washington, D.C. and it looks more like a pride parade than a freaking, I was like, I'm dead. This is a fucking pride parade. Yeah. I've never seen so many loud outfits in my life. These gay men that were just like super flamboyant.
We're not gay.
We're not gay. We're straight. We're reformed.
We're straight, bitch.
while still having the rainbow everywhere,
right?
And wearing pride flags, which made no freaking sense. And then I wrote, "Flaming gays hating themselves praying."
Yeah, exactly.
Because that's what it was, and it felt like it just felt gross.
Yeah, it felt very wrong. Yeah,
how sad.
All right, so the lady who says this is the sound of you, when they're in the apartment and they're gathered in the apartment and there's so many people there, and then they start stomping their feet, and she's like, this is the sound of unity, this is the sound of a warrior.
So that weird.
Business. I laughed so fucking hard at that
so
part.
Weird.
It was so weird. Also, all that many people gathered in a room stomping their feet, I thought they were gonna fall to the basement. I swear to God. I was just like, oh my God, they're gonna damage the floor. Anyway,
one could only dream.
Right. So there, and the one thing that like I took away from that is that there was so much prayer and so much shame.
Right.
Like, so much. Like, how great would it have been if that would have been eliminated from that? It would have been a great gathering of people who wanted to worship, and sexuality had nothing to do with it.
Right. It should just be that, it should just be, let them be Christian if you want to be Christian, and be gay if you, just be like, if a gay person wants to still practice religion, like, why would you, their money is green, right? Like, that's the point of your church, is your money is green. Like,
right.
Just let it be the thing.
Right. Yeah. And it would have been a fucking beautiful service.
Right. Yeah.
If sexuality wasn't part of the agenda.
Right.
Because there was prayer, there was, community, there was acceptance, there was that, that religious fervor, that love of God,
Yeah.
But sexuality was the underlying, cure me.
Hating their sexuality was the underlying cause for them being together.
Yeah, definitely.
Exactly. So cut to Julie Rogers and her fiance. She starts to read an excerpt from her book. Julie Rogers is writing a book, and she talks about self-harm, and I'm crying and they're crying and we're all crying.
It was sad.
It was
was sad.
really sad because she starts talking about how she started to hate the body that wouldn't reject those thoughts,
Right.
and how self-harm was like a way of detaching herself from that harmful body.
Imagine like her partner, like you love this person so much and they're like reading you their trauma like off the page. Like I just felt so sad for her. I just felt so sad for her to like listen to that and like experience that with her. It's just like, holy shit.
Especially if she had a totally different experience.
Right.
Mhm.
Right.
You know?
Mhm.
Yeah.
So anyway, back to John Polk. He says he was looking at porn that whole time.
Yeah, of
And,
course he was.
and that his wife was upset, you know, and he couldn't understand why the gay wouldn't go away. And he said that he ached to love and be loved by a man,
Mhm.
and that he felt suicidal. So he got drunk one night and he went into a gay bar. And I was
Yeah.
like, that is bullshit about getting drunk the one night, honey.
Right.
That is
Right.
bullshit.
Right.
You had been going to the gay bar and you just got ID'd. That's
Right.
all that was.
Yeah.
So a gay activist took a picture of him as he's like running away, covering his face, like
Yeah.
TMZ moment.
Yeah.
And he tried to defend it in vain because they kicked him out of the organization. He tried to say that he had been looking for a bathroom and stumbled.
I didn't
into
know it was a gay bar. Bitch, have you ever been in a gay bar? You can't go into a gay bar without knowing it's a gay bar. Come on, bitch.
Mhm.
There's fucking
Right.
rainbows from here to kingdom come. Like, get the fuck out of here.
So the family org thing got rid of him, and his wife divorced him.
Yeah.
And she
Mhm.
refused to be interviewed too. She
Yeah,
was
because
just
I bet you she's still like an activist, anti-gay. Go ahead.
Put a paperclip in that because that comes at the end.
Oh, okay.
So Randy Thomas, such a queen. Such a queen. Why do I want to be his friend so damn bad? I don't know why.
Which one was Randy Thomas?
Randy Thomas was like in the first scene right after the shopping center thing. They cut to him and he's just like this gay man, and he's just like but they didn't talk to him too much until now. All right,
Okay.
so Randy Thomas, he's just like I think he was like something in the politics and everything, and Bush made that statement about gay marriage and stuff,
Yeah.
that marriage should be between a man and a woman, and I was like, that didn't age well. And it was when gay marriage became legal in Massachusetts.
Right.
And again, I cried. I was just like, yes, these people want to be just as miserable as heteros.
Yes,
Like,
exactly.
Let them be. What's the fucking big deal, right?
Yeah.
So 2008, it's 2008. Randy is very passionate about anti-gay marriage, and he's very outspoken about it, and I don't know what his role was, but I think that he had something to do with the hey, look at me, I used to be gay, I'm not gay anymore kind of thing.
Right.
But he was doing it for like, I think the family, that religious family council thing, maybe.
Yeah.
It was never really, I never really understood what his role was, but he was a very big part of the whole anti-gay movement, that anti-gay
Yeah.
marriage movement. All right, so Julie starts working, and this is gay Julie Rogers. She starts working with with Randy Thomas and others to push Proposition 8, to shut that shit down before the election, to get it to pass and shut down the whole
Gay
right
marriage
to
thing.
marriage and stuff
Yeah.
like that, right?
What's
So,
up, Cindy?
I was gonna say I thought it was Yvette that was out there pushing that agenda.
It was all of them. It was Julie, Yvette. They touch on all of them. And
It
she
was
talks about-
definitely a vet for sure. Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right, then maybe you're right. So she talks about how a penis and a vagina are meant to fit together.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely Yvette.
Procreation.
Yeah.
And I was just like, Ugh.
That was a very
And-
weird thing to say.
Yeah, like we've all been to health class. We know how that shit works. Like,
Mhm.
ew, Dana, no. Also, that could be gay.
Very
That
gay.
whole gesture.
That's very gay.
Okay, so anyway,
Just
so she supports that, she purports that that pedos, that pedo bears, pedophiles, and people wanting to be in incestuous relationships would be allowed, but under those terms. If you allow gay marriage, then you also have to allow
Right.
these things, because it's, go hand in hand, or
Right.
whatever. So
And
she
she
was
ma-
basically,
She made an interesting point in that, like, what she was saying was like, even if, I don't know, she didn't say this specifically, but like, even if they don't believe it, it doesn't matter because like that's the fear. So it like
Right,
sways,
yeah.
it sways the person that's like on the fence or doesn't care because, well, of course we don't want to have pedophiles. Of course we don't want to have, incestual. Of course we don't want to have incestual relationships. Like we don't like that. So like,
Right.
of course, gayness is bad too. Like if it just opens the door, right?
right,
But
right.
like
So,
the fact of the matter is like pedophiles is not two consenting adults, so stop.
right,
Bestiality is not two consenting adults, so fucking stop.
right.
And if, we all watch Game of Thrones, if the brother and sister want to have sex with each other and they're both adults, like, I'm not mad at it.
No, Dana, no. No, take
Hey,
that
There's
back.
whole other problems for that, but that's not, there's consenting is consent.
Consent is consent. Sorry about it.
Right.
but
So
I-
so she was basically fear mongering.
Go ahead.
people
Yes,
that were
and
on-
that's what I was gonna
Right.
say is that I actually put in quotations, it scared them. So she must have used that terminology
Yeah,
specifically.
she did.
Yeah.
That you had to scare them.
Right.
Right.
And she was really proud of her fear mongering tactics because they absolutely worked. The churches came together like never before,
Yeah,
and Proposition 8 passed.
terrible.
Mhm.
And meanwhile, the gays are upset. They're marching. There's crying on camera. And Randy Thomas saw this. He saw his community. And for the first time, it was like the Grinch that stole Christmas and the heart grew 4 sizes that way.
Yeah.
He knew his heart was gay and his true soul. And that changed him. Seeing
Right.
that, seeing how he hurt his community. He knew deep down, these are my people and they're
Right.
hurting. And I was like, damn.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like a chain of events, a domino effect.
Right.
Yeah, I wrote quotation, my community, which is you
Right.
said that. And then he said, how could I have done this to my community?
Right.
Right. But it wasn't until he saw the reaction,
Mm-hmm.
the Proposition 8 passing and the reaction that people had to it, that he
Mm-hmm.
really realized these are my people that I'm hurting.
Right.
And so so it was like a domino effect.
Yeah, we
A
can't.
lot of these people started to realize that they were hurting only themselves.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
We really
Um,
can't underestimate the power of a candlelight vigil.
Vigil.
A vigil. I always say visual. A candlelight vigil.
Yeah,
You really
yeah,
can't underestimate it because it's moving. It's very powerful and it's effective. And if
Yes.
that's what got to him is like seeing his people be vulnerable and be sad and be broken, like then good.
right.
But that's
So-
even Yvette said that she had panic attacks after proposition.
Right. Yeah,
Prop 8
that was
passed.
my very next line. I
Sorry.
said that started to have panic attacks, and that every time she would do anti-gay things, she would have panic attacks, and she didn't know why this was happening. So she goes to therapy, and she comes to the term after 9 years of therapy. She comes to the term what?
No, I'm just at 9 years is crazy.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so after 9 years of therapy, she comes to terms with the fact that she just wanted to belong to a group.
Right.
She felt so outcast because of her sexuality that she just wanted to become part of a group. And she begins to, through therapy, she begins to classify herself as bisexual. because she knew that she loved her husband and she had been married to him for many, many years, but she was still attracted to women, you know, in much the same way that she was attracted to her husband. So, so that was like, finally, but you know, like the damage was done, bitch. You know how many people took their lives because of you, indirectly or directly?
Right.
So back to Julie's wedding planning at the church, and I was just like, they're so cute.
They were so cute. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, so after Proposition 8 passed, there was a massive exodus of the gay community leaving this conversion therapy kind of thing. And Michael Bussey helped redeem himself by helping them find their voice. So he was the one who helped people leave these groups. And because when the people would leave Exodus, they were basically dead to the group, you know? It's not like a relapse in Alcoholics Anonymous where like you relapse and then you can come back to the group and they'll still take you back. In this case, they were just dead, excommunicated from the group, and you never heard from them again. So Julie writes an article on the Exodus blog about ex-gays who returned to gayness, and she writes basically, I'm sorry that you didn't feel God loved you while you were here with us, and I just want to hear your story. Like, you know, what could we have done to keep you, you know, to keep you in your straight life? You know, what made you think that God, how did we fail you and make you believe that God didn't love you, that you went back to being gay? And so Michael Bussey reaches out and he's like, I'll tell you the stories, you know, because he's been dealing with them as they're coming out of Exodus. He's helping them fucking, you know, be who they are. He's helping them, right? So he gets together and they create a Facebook page and of these survivors of the conversion therapy, and 75 people are in the group, and they start to post their stories and, you know, how they felt, and the underlying issue that Julie sees is that they felt they were worthless. Instead of feeling loved and you know, comforted by their God, they felt like God couldn't possibly love me because I am pretending that this is working, and it's not.
Right.
As much as I want it to work, it's not. And that made me so sad. So Lisa Ling picks up their story. Remember Lisa Ling? What the frig happened to her, bro? What happened
around, I think.
I don't know.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
She was huge. She was up and coming. Like, she had all the good documentaries and
yeah,
you know.
for sure.
Anyway, she was like a next Barbara Walters, you know.
She was from Channel 1 or something when I was a little kid. She was like a teenage.
Same, yes.
Yeah. Like,
Yeah.
this is Lisa Ling from Channel 1. I'm like, I love Lisa Ling.
So she picks up their story, and the president of Exodus, which they didn't use him much for this, but he has this one scene, gay as hell.
Mm-hmm.
He was a flaming hot Cheeto. Anyway, he said that he decided to do a group therapy in the church basement, you know, with these ex-survivors and the Exodus, like the big guns of Exodus. And she says that it was intense. She said it was really intense. And she said she began to identify with the survivors.
Yeah.
And she said that she felt she couldn't do it anymore.
Right.
And so Lisa Ling brought down Exodus. So in 2013, they did something really amazing that took a lot of balls. The president of Exodus stands up in the conference in 2013, and he says that he's shutting it down because he admitted that they hurt people, which fucking kudos, man, because you know this was bringing in money.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I had to been bringing
and for them to just say, listen, we would rather shut it down than continue to hurt people.
I'd love to know a little bit more about that. Like, I wonder if there was something else happening there, because I can't imagine these motherfuckers just shutting this money train down for no reason.
Yeah, I'm thinking lawsuits. Maybe get closer to the mic. Every time you sit back, you can't hear you.
Every time you lean that way, we can't hear you.
Yeah, I'm thinking they probably had a lot of lawsuits.
Either lawsuits or something pending, maybe some tax situations or something that they were just like, let's just turn this off.
Right. But let's pretend that they did it from the goodness of their heart.
And if we pretend that they did it from the goodness of the heart, then this quote that they said would fit. Lost my soul for doing what I thought was the right thing. And I thought that was interesting because many of them that were ex-gay lost who they were
Right.
for a vision or a theology or a practice that was set by religion.
Right.
Christianity.
A
A misguided and twisted
yeah,
version of what it
they
should
thought
have
was the
been.
right thing to do. Right.
Yeah.
Right. I agree. And ultimately, this was all. I think for the most part, 99% of it was all just people wanting to help other people who weren't happy with their sexuality.
I think there's a big part of it that is definitely homophobic, like
Towards themselves.
yeah, towards themselves, towards other people, towards, it's not just only gay people running this thing here, right?
Right.
Like
Definitely not.
definitely straight people as in a part of this, but really, like, I think one of them at the end was like saying, as long as there's homophobia, there'll be more groups like this that pop up because
absolutely,
it's a misunderstanding of what's the reason behind why people are gay, like.
Right. But homophobia isn't just for straight people. That's
I
the
understand.
yeah.
Well, I mean, yeah, of course we have like all different forms of fucking hatred and misunderstand. We have lesbians that can't stand trans people. It makes no sense to me. Like, there's lots of internal fucking homophobia, internal hatred, internal racism. Like, it's all fucked up. It's all fucked up.
So Julie in her church group talks about gays and the church and feeling accepted there, like, she finally found a church that she would, felt accepted in. And Living Hope continued to provide the conversion therapy, and the Restored Hope Network was born. So instead of Exodus, now is the Restored Hope Network. Anyway, so the annual Freedom March starts. They cut to that starts, and it's young gays wanting to change and praise God, right? And like I said, it was huge. It was just it turned into a huge thing.
I was confused to like freedom from what? Like freedom of what? Like
freedom of gay thoughts and gay sexual behavior. I don't know.
Oh my God.
But the whole reason why they put that towards the end is that, like, so Exodus dies, right? Exodus is no longer, but other things come up behind it, like you said, the Restored Hope Network and the Freedom March people, you know what I mean? With that young kid that was like spreading the word, the bear, the gay bear. And then we go back to the people that started this whole conversion therapy process. Randy Thomas, one of them, and he's dealing with so much guilt. And really all of them are. And because he's got blood on his hands, and he talks about, people coming, other gay people saying, hey, how do you sleep at night knowing that you have blood on your hands? And he's like, to be honest with you, I can't even look at my hands. You know what I mean? Like, he's at the point where he knows the damage that he did. And
it's almost like that many-headed snake, where you cut off one head and three more grow in its place. It's like, it's the Pandora's box has been opened. Like, go ahead, Cindy.
I was just gonna say the Living Hope is still active by Ricky, and Ann Polk, the ex-wife, is running the other thing, the continuation of Exodus or Living Hope or whatever. She's actually the one in charge.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that's why they didn't want to talk.
Yeah, they did not want to talk because of that. Yeah.
So we come to the end of the documentary, and they remind us that approximately 700,000 people have gone through the conversion therapy, and that youth that are submitted to this conversion therapy are twice as likely to attempt suicide.
Right.
which is-
I had wanted to mention how they have the wedding for the lesbian couple.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you happen to notice her arm and look
No.
at the scars where she
On her
burnt
shoulder
her
here,
all
yeah.
across down her arm. And I just it was like, I don't know if they meant to do it on purpose so that you could see it, but it was like, it was prominent to show.
Well, you know,
that-
she
what went
certainly
through.
picked a wedding dress that would reveal that in such a
Mhm.
way, because it was like this beautiful, you
Mhm.
know, I don't know what the words are. I don't know
Sleeveless,
dress words.
curvy, yeah.
Sleeveless, very good word. Sleeveless dress thing. And yeah, if she was like burning herself, which we sort of like glazed over, that she was like heating up quarters and like burning her skin with it. And yeah, you could sort of see them on her.
The scars from all of
You
that.
know,
Yeah. So
that's fucked.
mhm.
And this was a sad documentary, and I don't know what I thought it was going to be, but it was, I was glad to watch it because it did really bring some stuff up for me that I think I want to like delve into a little bit deeper.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. It definitely like reminded me of some of how I used to feel when I would like sit in church, because I really struggled like, well, I just won't be gay though. Like I'll be gay, but like I just won't like do it.
On
You
it,
know,
yeah.
Mhm.
I won't be a practicing lesbian, you know?
Right, right. And you know what's funny is I've heard that phrasing before.
Yeah.
Practicing gay. And it came from somebody that I used to work with. He passed away. But I remember he was a pastor. But he said to me, he had his church and he was like, everyone's welcome. And he was like such a flaming gay. And he's like, everybody's welcome. I came out as gay to my family, but I'm not practicing. And I'm like, oh, honey, I am on a regular. And I have no interest in coming to your church if you can't fully accept who you are. If you think there's something wrong with you, quote unquote, practicing the fact that you love someone that's of the same sex.
Yeah.
And it's a possibility. I don't know what kind of theology and thing you're gonna tell me when I walk in your door because I'm welcome. Yes, I may be welcome like the freedom marchers welcomed, but we can't practice what we love. It was like, oh, that's sad, honey.
Well,
That's
and the
sad.
thing is, you're only welcome if you're willing to be changed. And like,
Mhm.
that's not truly being welcome, you know? Like I have been to a church where the pastor was gay and it was a welcoming church. Like there's a rainbow outside and whatever. And like that church, I did feel like, I mean, church is not for me just because I feel
Mhm.
like a lot of trauma around it, but there are many churches like everyone's welcome, but like as soon as you get there, they're like, let's talk about it. Let's talk about
Mhm.
your gayness. I'm like,
Mhm.
nah, I don't think I want to talk about that with you. You know, like
Yeah, and again, well, not again, but me and Dana may talk about our personal, religious trauma and religious things because I've got shit to say.
yeah, me too.
And and kind of tied into that, oh, you're welcome to stay, but kind of situation. And yeah, so I'm gonna
My
leave it
ex
at that.
didn't
We
say
have
a lot
something
of
to talk
smart.
about.
My ex didn't say a lot of smart things in our 15 years of being together, but she used to say anything after but is bullshit. And I'm like,
Mhm.
that's probably true. That's very
Mhm.
true.
Mhm.
But hey,
There you go.
it's been fun. And I guess we'll see you next month. We'll see you. We have some fun things coming up. Camping. It's coming. I'm so excited.
Danny's waiting for me to suffer. I told my mom and she was like, "Oh, you're going camping? Maybe I can buy you a tent," because she wants to go camping. And I'm like, "Mom, you have trouble getting up out of bed, and you want to sleep in a tent." She's like so excited for me, and I'm like, I know.
I can't wait. People are coming. It's gonna be so fun.
Yeah, people are definitely gonna be there. So
It's gonna be so fun. You're gonna love it.
I have all these like I bought these Girl Scout badges, like vintage Girl Scout badges from like a huge bag of them, and like there's like a campfire song badge.
Yay.
You know, we should if people join us, we should give away these badges.
We definitely should. We definitely should.
Yes.
It's gonna be so fun.
Let's talk that up and discuss that.
All right.
Share it with everyone what our plans are.
All right,
now? Oh, okay. All right. All right, bye.
Bye.
Thanks for dining with us. See you next month.